What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a really cool video for you because I'm going to show you my brand new Sawstop industrial cabinet saw. But unfortunately it's too big to fit in the shop, so we're going to have to head up to the garage. So here it is, the brand new Seth's Custom Creations table saw. Like I said earlier, it is a 2016 Sawstop industrial cabinet saw. It has the 52-inch side support over here, as well as the integrated mobile base, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. I believe it's got a 3.5 horsepower motor, but we'll have to check in a minute. This thing is massive. It's almost 7 feet long and just over 3 feet wide, so it's definitely got a ginormous tabletop. It's all cast iron, so it's super heavy duty. I got a Diablo blade in there. And if you remember what I had before, a little Ryobi job size saw, you will know how much of an upgrade this is. So my plan for this video is to just do a quick overview, kind of talk about the things that I like about this saw, and mention some of the things that I don't like. So starting here on the front, we've got the whole control panel. This is where you turn on the saw. This is where you can put it into bypass mode. This is where all your codes are. So basically, this switch turns on or off the computer, and then this switch here actually turns the blade on or off. The saw is basically a giant computer, and all these codes here on the side tell you what these buttons here, these lights, are doing. So if one of these lights is flashing green, the other one is solid red, that means something specific. If this one is flashing green but this one's turned off, that means something specific. So it basically can diagnose itself and tell you if there's an issue or something, which that's super cool. And they have all the codes conveniently on the side here, so you don't have to memorize them. And then obviously on the front of the machine you have the blade raising and lowering mechanism, as well as your angle gauge. Now that's the one thing that I really don't like about this saw, is the angle gauge, and I'll show you that a little bit later when we get around to this side of the saw. But it's really hard to read what angle the saw is at, because this needle here is about 1/2 inch from the actual markings, and the markings are pretty vague. So I definitely want to get one of those little block angle blade finders, because I really have a hard time trying to see what angle this is at. It's just really hard to see with the way they've laid this out, so I think they can definitely improve on this. And then down below we have the integrated mobile base, as Sawstop calls it. And if I bought one of these saws brand new, I bought this one used. If I bought one of these saws brand new, I would not have gotten it because it's like a $350 option. But when I bought this saw used, the guy had the mobile base, and I could not imagine living with this saw not having the mobile base. This thing is incredibly useful for just lifting up the saw and then rolling it around. So if you want to clean underneath of it, vacuum underneath of it, if you want to put it in a different position and make a different cut, that mobile base is an absolute lifesaver. And if you're thinking about getting one of these saws, definitely get it with the mobile base. All it takes is 3 or 4 quick pumps of this little lever here, and it raises up the saw about 1.5 inches, and then you can just roll it around wherever you need it. And then when you're done lifting up and rolling it, you can hit that little lower lever on the side and it will lower it down. Now moving around to the right side of the saw, we have the big cover that covers the engine and the internals of the saw. So you can just flip this little switch here and we have complete access to the inside of the saw. Nothing too fancy in here. We just have the motor, we have the dust collection hose coming out of the blade harness assembly, I guess you'd call it, the raising and lowering mechanism, and then I can open this up here and you can see the patented Sawstop blade brake technology, as well as the Diablo blade. I still need to mess with this and figure out how you can adjust where this sits, so I'll have to read through the manual on that, because right now my blade brake is about 1/4 inch from my blade, and I know it should be about 1/16 or 1/8, so I definitely need to adjust that. And I know a lot of people are going to want to take a look at the motor. So there's the sticker, 3 horsepower, 230 volts, and 3,450 RPM. So on top of the saw here, this is that 52-inch side support, and you can see it's pretty dinged up. The gentleman that I bought this saw from used it as his main workbench, and you can definitely tell. He actually put some holes through it. He rubbed all the way through the laminate in some places. It's just a piece of plywood underneath. So I was going to buy a new one, but I went on Sawstop's website, and it's about $300 for just this panel. So I was like, yeah, just forget it. So I cleaned it up a little bit, and it's totally functional. It just looks kind of bad. Like I said, it's just a laminate on top, so I might see if I can find a laminate, just like a gray laminate, rip this laminate off, and then glue another piece of new laminate on top. Not really sure. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. Around the back of the saw, you just have the entry where that cord comes in, as well as your dust collection port. Over on the left side of the saw, you have another access door where you can access the inside of the saw. This is where you can change all your belts from, and I don't really see any other use for this door other than changing belts, maybe tuning it up, and just gives you another place to vacuum the saw out. Also on the left side of the saw is the blade angle adjuster, and you can just see how well this thing glides. I mean, this thing is so smooth and so slick. It is absolutely incredible. On my old Ryobi table saw, you literally had to go underneath and you lay on your back and kick the whole blade assembly to the left so that the blade would like actually bevel. This thing is so slick, it just goes on its own, and I really like I said before, I really like how well built this saw just feels. You can tell this thing has some pretty good engineering behind it, and this is just another example of that. Also, just like the front, you can lock it in place, so that's a really good feature. Some saws do not have this. I know my old Ryobi did not. And so, on to my biggest complaint about this saw. When you want to adjust the angle of it like this, the red angle needle is about 1/2 inch from this little scale. So you kind of have to guess where it's at. So you have to kind of position the needle to where it looks like it's over top of one of the angles. And so you have to try and get like straight directly behind it and see. And so I really wish that the needle was like right on it like that. That's a minor thing. But this scale here is absolute garbage. My old Ryobi table saw had positive stops at 0, 22.5, and 45 degrees, and I wish this saw had something like that, because I find a lot of times, again, I'll be adjusting the angle, and I think it's on the angle, but I could be off just a little bit, and I really don't want to be off. The whole entire fence setup is incredibly nice. I went on Sawstop's website to see how much this fence costs, and it's just over $300 currently, so that's about twice as much as my old Ryobi table saw cost. But yeah, this fence is really nice. I had to replace the measuring tape on here. When I bought the saw, it was pretty beat up, but it's easy to read, really nice. I like that you can position the fence on the left and right side of the blade, and the fence also locks down really securely, and I really like the precision of it. It is a T-style fence, so at first I was concerned that if it only locked in the front, there would be some movement in the back of the fence, but there is absolutely zero movement in the back of that fence, and I really like it. The miter gauge on this saw is really nice. There's not very much slop at all. Actually, there's really no slop at all. It's a little bit hard to tell, again, what angle it's at. So I wish they did a better job at that, but they did put positive stops at 0, 22.5, and 45 degrees, so it is easy to get those common angles perfect. However, soon we are going to be building a big miter sled for this thing, and I'm super excited to make that. I'm definitely going to be making a video about that, because I know a lot of you guys are going to want to see how I'm going to do that. I'm going to put some cool features in there, some cool stop blocks, and some other stuff that I think is going to be really cool. The insert plate is awesome on this saw. It has a proprietary locking mechanism, so you can actually lock down the insert, and as far as I know, this is the only saw that has a locking insert, so I really like that. I like that it doesn't just sit down in there. It is incredibly easy to change these blades. My Ryobi table saw was a lot more complicated because there was a lot of stuff in the way, and the throat plate was not nearly as wide as it is on this saw. And I don't know if you can see it down there, but there is the Sawstop proprietary blade brake technology. I will not be doing the hot dog test because you guys have probably already seen it and it's all over the internet. But again, down there is the blade brake, and it's super simple to take that out if it gets triggered. Another thing that I really like about this saw is how absolutely quiet it is. With all that cast iron, this thing is super heavy, and with that motor being completely enclosed underneath, all the sound just gets trapped inside. And unlike my old Ryobi saw where the sound just blared out, this thing is super quiet. You can even hear me talking over it, so It is not that loud, guys. It's very, very quiet. So that's really good if you've got a shop in a neighborhood or something where you don't want to disturb everybody else around you. And obviously it's got the Sawstop blade break technology, so if I were to put my finger into the blade, I would not get cut really. I would barely even need a band-aid, so that's a huge plus, and I'm planning on having this table saw for a very, very long time. And also from that same gentleman I bought the Sawstop from, I purchased this rigid joiner. It's a 6-inch. And this is going to come in super handy. So you guys have seen my shop back there. You guys know how small it is. So you may be wondering where these things are going to go, because my mom wants me to get this thing out of her garage. So let's take a little walk to the backyard and let me show you what's going on. So this is my current shop. It is a 12 by 14 building. It's very small for what I'm doing. It's pretty cramped in there. We can take a quick walk inside and I can show you. Everything is pretty messy in here right now. I haven't cleaned it in a while. I've just been doing a lot of work for Christmas and stuff. But you can see everything's pretty much packed in. I don't have much room. So right behind where my current shop is, this is the location for my new shop. You can see we've put the stakes in the ground. We've already kind of cleared the land a little bit, got the leaves out of there, got some of the smaller trees out. So it is a 12 by 24 shop with a 6 foot by 8 foot nook in the corner. So in total, it's going to be about 340 square feet. As you can see, I've kind of marked out the corners with the stakes, and we've put the string up just to kind of help visualize it a little bit. But I'm hoping to have a full built-in dust collection system in here, as well as maybe like a little separate area like a drying room. It will also have a wood stove in it, so it's going to be really nice and warm in the winter. The problem with my shop right now is that I don't have any heat, so it's miserable. So having that wood stove in there is going to be really, really nice, and it's going to be a huge upgrade.